Welcome, everybody. The Board of Education, they were in a meeting just before this, and so they must be just wrapping up. So we're just going to give it a few minutes. I know they will be joining, just not here yet.
Deb, in case, remember, I got to leave at like 6:30 or whatever to go.
Yep.
Thanks.
Absolutely. No. Yep.
Enjoy the concert, Dean.
Thanks.
And I have to leave at probably 6:40 to go set up the Capitol meeting, which you'll all be joining me with at 7.
Exactly.
Some of you will be.
And I will need to leave probably at 6:55 just to hit the restroom. This is my third meeting now in a row before I go down.
I also have a 7 o'clock meeting here in another room. So yeah, 'tis the night for meetings.
That's right. Hey, Dave. Hi, Vonda. Hi, John. Lucas didn't say hi when you joined.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. As I was saying, the Board of Ed was in a meeting just prior to this, so it probably is just running a few minutes over, but they will be joining us soon, and then we can get started. Nice big crowd for a Tuesday evening Finance Committee meeting. Maybe it was good to switch from Thursdays to Tuesdays. There's Caroline. Hi, Caroline.
Hello.
Hi, Caroline.
Sorry, Rob and Aaron should be on any moment. Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello there.
Good evening.
Hi, guys. Sorry, it's like hopping from one meeting to another.
All right. Okay. Are we ready to call to order now?
Yeah. Appears that way.
Yeah. Here.
All right. I will call to order at 6:03 p.m. Okay. And roll call. I don't know if Casey, maybe you could fill this in a little easier. I am on one screen and it's really difficult to fill the names in quickly here.
Do you want me to read them, Caroline?
That would be helpful.
Okay. So Caroline's here. I'm here. Rob's here. So we have our full committee.
Yeah.
And then we have Chris Caridi, Dave Kapsowski, Dean Renda, Deb Farias, Joan Reynolds.
Wait, whoa.
I'll send them to you.
Okay.
Do you want to write them, Caroline?
If you send them to me in the chat or in the meeting minutes, I'll make sure we put on all the proper names and proper spellings. I just don't want to spend 10 minutes doing that.
No problem. I'll send it to you now.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to public comment. Do we have any public comment this evening?
Me, myself, Mark Morash, if anybody else, I don't know.
Hi, Mark.
Hello.
I'm not sure if we have anybody else, but go ahead, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Okay. Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mark Morash, Brookfield resident. After the roundtable meeting last Wednesday, which was brilliant, it became clear that we need more of those moments of conversation. I want to thank Chair Caroline that after the roundtable and at last Thursday's finance meeting, she had obviously taken the voices of numerous parents to heart. The following is my suggestion on the missive to bring the increase down from the draft 6%, one that I believe is worth speaking to. So I'm going to get algebraic. The status quo is to take Z, our budget, subtract X, and get a more palatable Z. The status quo, cut arts, pay to play, but the status quo never brings about change. Yeah, what if there was a way to spend X, yet save X plus Y? What if Y is not only dollars, but to make things better for our kids? Lest anybody mistake me, kids are not commodities, and it's going to seem like talking of reducing this line item is inverted, but it's actually, in my estimation, the way through with fidelity. Line items 55108 and 55109, where we spend $1.5 million on transportation for our outplacement students. It's time for us to try to keep as many of them in district as possible. It's never going to be all of them. Keep them close to home with their peers because of money, yes, but because it's the better thing for many of them. Over the next 2 years, the state is bringing on millions of dollars of increased grants to create maybe our own academy, maybe a regional academy with other towns. The money is going to be there for this very thing. What's the saying about the definition of community is how we treat our most vulnerable? We're never going to know how many. The numbers are always vague and a bit of a leap. Due to predetermination, we can't sit and speak of kids as numbers. But let's look at some concrete things. The Birth to 3 program in Connecticut has 18,000 kids. We don't know how many of them will need special education services or outplacement, but there's an avalanche coming. According to a 2021 report from Connecticut Voices for Children, from 2010 to 2019, 53% increase in the state in outplacement up to 5,300 kids. More concrete numbers. We spend $1.5 million for 29 students. Stanford spends $3.5 million for 197 because of location. Location. We're Brookfield. We're always going to be Brookfield. We're always going to be located where we are. Imagine if we could keep the kids here in our own academy or a regional academy. So here's my ask to the board to break out of the status quo, because the status quo never changes 5 years into a new superintendent. We have a brilliant moment right now. As per your bylaws, 9120 special committees for the consideration of certain problems, 1010 goals of community relations to obtain broad community participation on ad hoc advisory committees. I'm asking someone on the board, someone on the finance committee to put forth a motion to create an ad hoc special education committee, because it's time. It's long past time for our kids. There's an avalanche coming. We're not going to stop it, but we can build the dam and make things better. And it's an untidy metaphor, but not every metaphor is sky and sun and rainbows, but that's where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Okay. Any other public comment for this evening? All right. Thank you. Are we going to move into number 4, Board of Education financial reports?
Great. Is it just the agenda you have up there, Caroline, or should I share my screen with the check register?
Yeah, could you share your screen for the reports? Thank you, Casey.
Yep. I say yes, I think I can. Hang on. Here it is. Okay. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions on the check register?
No, I do not.
It was a fairly typical month. I will say.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can say that again.
I didn't really see much.
And I will say I really love the suggestion coming out of the last meeting of sorting it by largest to lowest payment. I think it does make it pretty efficient on where to be looking at the you see the typical numbers up top and the all the other ones in between. But yes, this is our health insurance, which will every month will be at the top of our list here.
Casey, I'm sorry to interrupt. Casey, would you just remind me what is omitted from this version of the check register? Is it just everything under 500, or is it 150? Or is it 1,000?
Everything under 1,000.
Gotcha.
So 1,000 is the threshold here. Yep. Good
Perfect.
question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And for my reference, only being on this about a month, I mean, was there any observations from yourself or Joan, you know, of anything out of the ordinary, I guess?
No, it's a pretty typical month at this point. Yep.
Okay.
It becomes like Groundhog's Day, right? With education, the same thing over and over. We're doing that spin right now.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions on? Okay. Thanks, Casey.
You're welcome. Okay. We'll move on to the monthly financial report. So I just want to say, big picture here is that we are still, you know, feeling very confident in being able to, you know, manage this budget well within the approved, you know, funding from the town this year, largely due to the way we had funded special education this year, which is, you know, fully funding all the, you know, known needs and likely needs that would pop up. As this committee knows, we have seen some of those anticipated needs pop up in the last month or so. And fortunately, we do have the funding to cover that. I'm still, you know, projecting the salary shortfall in paras, which we did know about. That was part of the conversation in getting this contract done for the para educator group, was to bring their salaries up in a more comparable way to our area districts and really ensure that we can retain the staff in this area. And do so in a year that we knew we would have other salary savings from the interim superintendent model. So we do anticipate being able to cover that. We are seeing a shortfall in the substitutes and very, very small shortfall in the teacher turnover account, which, you know, we're still only, you know, a little more than halfway through the year. So that may change. Other professional services and special education, we are projecting a shortfall in that area that is largely due to needing to fill some specialized areas of leaves and vacancies in staffing, and also in additional testing evaluations from outside services. Legal fees are still running to be, you know, anticipated to be over budget, as well as people transportation for a McKinney-Vento homeless situation that we are, you know, required to provide transportation for. That was a carryover for the prior year. We anticipate these to be offset by, you know, salary savings in other areas. We do have a couple of vacancies that we're hoping to fill in the custodian maintenance areas. I think the maintenance one is ready to launch any day now, and salaries savings in the administration line as well. Employee benefits. Right now, I'm projecting that we will have a bit of a savings across Social Security, disability insurance. I was projecting unemployment up until yesterday when I did get our second quarter bill from unemployment, and it did have a large amount there we had to pay for a sort of back pay on a case that had been disputed and then ended up favorably for the former employee. So that is going to be paid out. So I don't anticipate the $5,000 savings in that account as I did yesterday, but I don't think we'll be over budget there. So that's all right. A little bit of savings in our VOAG tuition, and that is based on actual enrollment. Again, special education, we can get into more detail in our monthly report of that. And there's one situation in the out of district special education that we do anticipate changing in the next month or two that may impact the rest of the school year. But you know, we will report on that as more information becomes available.
Changing positively or negatively?
It's hard to say at this point. It depends. It really depends on so many different things. We do have savings, and you'll see in the special ed out of district report that we do still have a surplus, if you will, in the out of district transportation account. So, I'm still confident, barring any other drastic changes, that we will be able to manage within our approved budget. So any questions? And as you know, the 3-page report does provide more details on all of those accounts. If you have any questions.
The only account that I have questions on is, our substitute line item. So, we have building subs at each level. So how many do we have? If you can provide that information at a later time, how many, do we have at each school? And can it be reported in a different line item where it's not substitutes? Because that's a known payment every week. Like, we're paying them weekly. If we have 8 of them, we know we're paying 8 every week. Because I feel like that line item, and you can't really track it because 8 are known. So,
yeah, so I wouldn't want to account for it in a different account, Erin, only because, the object in org is really how the state sort of tracks our expenses, and they may not understand why we have 2 separate accounts for subs. I can look into that. In the very least case, Erin, what I can do is add a note on that line to say this much is standard every week, right?
Yeah,
out
right.
of this.
Or I think it would just be beneficial for us to know, like, how many building subs do we have at CLES? How many do we have at WMS? And actually, what is that monthly cost, right? Yep. So then we can subtract it out. And actually, it's so hard to look at it. We have no idea how much we're paying in subs every month, realistically, because we have no idea how many building subs and what we're paying them. So as a committee, I just don't think we have a fair understanding.
Okay. That's fair enough. And I still, I'm going to be pulling that substitute analysis, that deeper dive into that account together in the next month or 2. So we will get into more detail on that yet. But I can absolutely get that for you, because we do know how many permanent building subs we have at each building, and we know what we pay them, and we know how many days of school we have. So I can absolutely get that number for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, you're welcome. So any other questions?
I do not have any other questions on that, no.
And actually, quickly, special education. So what we budgeted for 29 students out of district. So
32. Sorry.
Okay. So where are we? Like, what is left in that? Like, I think the last time I looked at it, there's no way that we would be able to cover 32 students, right? Based on what we budgeted for. So, how much is left in that budget, and how many students are we talking about? So we had every intention when we did the budget a year ago, right, to cover 30 students, but the costs are changing. So, but that brings a whole other thing to the next budget. So
you're right. You're absolutely right. So if you want, if there's no other questions on this report, Erin, we can jump right into the out of district. If that's next on the agenda. I don't know if it's teacher turnover or
it's
out of district. If we want to jump right to that, we can get into that, and I can answer your questions on that. Are you good with that, Caroline?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Skipping over. Give it a minute. We'll come back to this. Not much change there, but okay. So this is what this will help answer your question, Erin. Again, for any of you on the call that's seeing this for the very first time, this is a monthly snapshot report that we started this year for these very sort of volatile at sometimes expense areas in our budget, because these are related to out of district tuition, transportation, and then the corresponding excess cost grant revenue that is expected from that. And so right here we see, Erin, we had budgeted 32 students. We have currently 29 students are outplaced. For our tuition account, we are currently over budget by $29,000 with this population of 29 students. And the reason for that is because out of these 7 students that aged out or declined services, many of them were transition students. And sometimes those are a less cost than an out of, and again, this is all dependent on student needs. So we are speaking very, very broad terms. But what this indicates, if our budgeted number of students was 32, and we are currently at 29, and we are over budget in tuition, is that the needs of this population of students is more complex than we originally thought almost a year ago, right? Last February and March when we were building this budget.
Yeah, no, and I mean, we expect that, right? We don't know. We don't even know who's coming into district. So I just wanted to make sure when I was reading this that we did budget for 32 students. We have 29 currently outplaced, and we're negative $29,000. So
Correct.
Realistically, in this budget, we could never cover 32 outplaced students.
Correct.
Now we know
for the tuition, right?
Correct.
Now we have the transportation. The transportation
Savings,
rates. We are favorable to the budget by $425,000. That's a combination of again, changes in placement or services for this $318,000. That could be that a student is attending a school that is closer geographically to us than we originally thought or had planned. It also could mean that the student did not, declined ESY and did not attend summer school. I know of a few situations like that, and those savings are significant in the tens of thousands, right? So there's a lot of different layers to that, what that means. And then the updated estimates, these are just, more favorable rates to us that came in. We are in year 3 of a 5-year contract with Ed Advance for our out of district transportation. And the first 2 years, we saw really, really big swings. And interestingly enough, they almost always were not favorable to us. This year, they have, and coming into this year, they even informed us of an updated way that they have decided to do their their billing, right? Their fees for these different runs, because it's a consortium. So we share runs with Newtown and a couple other area districts. They changed their modeling of that, and it has been favorable to us. And so typically this year, I'm going to knock wood and everything around me, but when we did get updated rates from them, they were typically very favorable to us. And so that's good news. And I'm hoping, as again, this is year 3 of them doing this transportation program, that next year will continue to smooth out and be favorable as well. And then the excess. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What's your best guess on this, on transportation staying this favorable?
I wouldn't even want to guess.
Okay. Enough said.
Honestly,
I get it.
I mean, all things remaining equal. Now things can change. We can, if a certain run, has a para educator or an aide on that run, something changes and the aide isn't needed, that would be favorable. If there are a couple of runs where, needs change and we have to add an aide, or if it's a shared run with another district and that, their student leaves the run, now all that burden of cost comes to us, Brookfield, right? So that run would essentially double. Like I said, things right now have sort of evened out and smoothed out and are a little bit more predictable. But again, I think because, to Mr. Morash's point, these are students with very diverse needs and they change. It's a very hard thing to predict that way. But, and I think that's why we moved in this direction of really taking the snapshot every single month and reporting it. I mean, you can see the swings.
Yeah.
We go back, right? Month over month. In January.
That's what I was looking at. I was like,
exactly.
So, and I know there's volatility, but.
Exactly. We were thinking, almost $360,000 favorable to our budget overall in these 3 accounts. And it grew to 462, up to 570, 571, 564. 172, right? We had a lot of shifts from November to December, and that's typically what happens. The school year starts, and processes take place, and then needs change. And so here we are at January at 318. We will continue to track it monthly, report it this way, and as soon as we know any changes, it's going to be communicated that way to you all. Any other questions?
Thank you very much, Casey. That's impressive work.
You're welcome.
No additional questions here.
Okay. Great. Thank you for your question, Erin. Appreciate getting into that and really explaining it, right? So everybody understands. Okay, so next one is our monthly teacher turnover. This is another change this year that we're reporting this every month, just so we can see that we're meeting this target. We do have a target of $200,000 in salary savings in the teacher account for, retirements and, hiring of younger staff. We are almost at that target. We do have this one line in blue is the only change from last month when we reported. And that was that we did hire the middle school Spanish position. And it was at the same step as the staff member that vacated the position. So that was the only change. And we do, so that was it. So we're, no other change there, and I'll continue to update it. At this point in the year too, a lot of the savings, it's not going to be a full amount of savings. A teacher, say at a step 14, if they leave and we hire at a step 2, we're not going to get all that savings because we're already halfway through the year or whatever portion through the year. So some of it would be, either in a leave or a vacancy or, a portion of the full savings we would meet. But any other questions on that?
No questions on my end.
All right. And that's all I have for the monthly reports.
Okay. Fantastic. Is my screen sharing again?
It is.
Oh, look at that. That's fancy. Pop back up again. Okay, so that closes out the financial reports. And we can move into new business of discussion of the 26-27 proposed budget. And Casey and team, just to note, I have a hard stop at 7 this evening. I'm not sure if this meeting usually closes at 7. So
yeah, a lot of us were commenting the same, Caroline. I have the capital committee meeting, so does Stephanie, and there's a bunch of us that have to jump off. So,
and I'm actually going to jump off and join by my phone because I have to be at the high school for a band concert.
Oh, fun.
Okay, so we will continue this discussion at Thursday's finance meeting, correct?
I was just about to say that. Yeah, whatever needs to be carried over is not a problem.
Okay, I just wanted to give the group a heads up.
All right. Should we jump into?
I think we should, just to give, so there's more folks on this call than there was, when was the last call? All these calls are blending together. It was last
Thursday.
Thursdays? Okay, so we had a finance committee meeting last Thursday. We talked about the feedback from the roundtable, which was done on Wednesday. And we collectively asked the administration to go back and give us some options, right, on the budget. So the original proposed budget, just to remind everybody, is close to 6%. I think it's coming in a little under, about 5.8 from the administration. We asked to have basically 3 options prepared. We did land on options of, looking at what a 3.5% increase would look like, a 4% and a 4.5% increase. Correct, Casey?
Yep.
Yes. So that's what Casey's going to start to go into tonight. I do anticipate this discussion is going to go well into Thursday's meeting as well. I just want to say I really appreciate everybody's time in looking at this, investigating this. I want to be fully prepared, right, when we go to the Board of Selectmen and ultimately the Board of Finance to talk about what our final recommendation is going to be. So,
Vonda, I don't know if you want to say anything to start it off, or
I would just like to echo what Caroline shared, which is, it's a huge moment of gratitude when everybody came together quickly on Friday and then came together again today and continued to share their input. These are hard things to talk about, and the team collectively did a great job trying to be thoughtful for taxpayers. But, again, the bottom line is the budget that was presented to the board is what we believe is needed.
Is the recommended budget.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the recommended budget, but we understand, needing to explore and taking a look at what you're going to see. Yep.
Okay.
All right. With that said, Caroline, if it's okay, I'll share my screen again.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so as you said, the Finance Subcommittee did, sort of task the administration with coming up with several different areas that we could target in order to, or we could cut in order to meet some target goals for the budget. Because we know that, yes, while we support a 6% budget, and I'm sure that the Board of Ed would support that as well, a 6% budget that does all these wonderful, great things for students doesn't really do a whole lot if it can't get approved by the town, right? So we fully understand and respect the position that the board is coming from in that respect. But to be clear, these are, and as an admin group today, we did meet a few times, 2 or 3 times, I think. And the sentiment across the board is that, we don't really like any of these, right? I will just say that, like, we're not saying, we're really comfortable eliminating this, because we do think all of these positions and all of these investments are really important to continue to move forward and move the district forward. That being said, this is what we came up with in areas that we believe could possibly have least impact, although it all has impact, right? To what we think would impact students.
Mm-hmm.
And I, as I say that, I know it's not it's not possible. But the scenario A, here's where we are. We have the approved budget of $55 million in this year. The superintendent proposed budget at that 6% increase was $58,765,330. To reach the target of 4.5% overall increase, we do need to find a reduction of $831,165. What is summarized here gets us very, very close to that number, within $3,600. And it does keep, because we did feel, that if at all possible, we really do need to keep that 1.0 FTE for the ML TESOL teacher. That position would be at Wisconsin. That being said, it would also have a direct impact on the programming experience for those students at the high school, because then our current ML teacher could be full-time at the high school rather than splitting her time between the 2 schools. So that has impact at both of those buildings, although it is 1.0 FTE. We did keep the two FTEs in the paraeducator, and we do need the firewall. So we're not going to go without upgrading that firewall across the district. So the known decreases we are aware of are an oil, gas, and a very small amount at a salary account. That amounts to just under $67,000. You'll see, in order to reach this reduction of $831,000, we would need to reduce 4.0 FTEs from the teacher unit. That's about half of what that gets us halfway to what that goal is. And quite frankly, with all the other things, and I commend our building leaders so much and our department heads, because they really did come to the table, not cheerfully, but they came to the table with many different areas that they said, if you need it, here's an option, right? None of it is pleasant, but it was a very, very collaborative effort to get here. So I appreciate them so much for that. So there's 4.0 FTEs. This is really a ballpark because some of the positions, would end up bumping other teachers. So it's again, these are positions, not people. And a lot of that, depending on what the position is based on certification and hire date. So that's how that works. And that is the amount for salary and health benefits. Again, estimating. Okay. This bucket of instructional supplies, books, textbooks, periodicals, things like that came to just under $110,000. Curriculum and professional development. We did decide to cut, in order to reach this target, to cut curriculum writing across all three buildings. Anywhere where there was a cut to, say, library books or musical instruments, replacing instruments, or curriculum writing, things that happen at each building, we cut it equally across the three buildings. Okay, so we didn't want to, only reduce library books at Wisconsin without touching the other buildings. We were trying to make it as equitable in that as possible. It does also reduce by about $15,000 of this is professional development district-wide for staff out of the assistant superintendent budget. There were 2 technology platforms that were, we feel could be eliminated. Are they good to have? Yes, but we could find other ways around that. Office supplies and furniture. So there is a budget line in each building for replacement of student desks and chairs that are old or break or we need more of. We decided take that out of next year's budget and we wouldn't replace any furniture. Conference travel and dues. This eliminates all sort of. We do have some membership fees, right, to different organizations and groups, because that's important to continue just that association and that outside professional development, really, and membership to be but conference traveling out of state for any conferences, even within state for conferences, we did eliminate. And then field trip transportation, that's primarily at the high school is where sort of those larger academic field trips take place. And this is a reduction to that account. And so that gets us right at that 4.5%.
So I know Erin had her hand up for a while, so I don't want to jump Erin in line. I have
sorry, Erin, I thought you were resting your hand on your head. I'm so sorry.
No.
No, I had it. I think as we start going through this budget, obviously none of us want to see this. I mean, we don't want to see elimination of any full FTEs, but I think we have to do our due diligence, because it's either going to get looked at by us, why we have a superintendent here to make these decisions, or it's going to get cut by the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance. I mean, I just don't see us with a 6% budget. But as we start to have these conversations, I want to make sure, like, we're looking at 4 teachers, which is horrifying. But will thoughtful conversations be had with the board on what we're thinking about these positions? Like, what are they? Where will they be? How will it impact our students? Because I think in order for us to vote on something, we need to have a clear idea of how it's going to impact our teachers and how it's going to impact our students.
Yep. And Vonda, we can speak broadly about what we're thinking in those. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it might be most helpful to go through the 3 tiers.
Yeah.
And then work our way backwards. But just to let, Erin and the rest of you know, we have this down to the granular level. We have talked about all of this, and we certainly can, talk about that with you as well. It's difficult, right, to talk about specific positions. We can, and we will. But these are, in some cases, these are individuals that, this causes stress on everybody. Mm-hmm. So we absolutely can. I just think it might be best if we go through all 3 first, if that's okay, Caroline.
Yeah. That's fine. Again, I don't want to end tonight's call like in an uncomfortable spot. So maybe with the time permitting, we review just the next scenario and then we start with the third scenario on Thursday and then have those deeper conversations. I did want to just ask a quick question, and it's, I guess, a silly question around kind of the furniture and then the field trip transportation. So I am assuming if furniture does physically break, I mean, we are going to be in need of replacing that for the students. I mean, I think that's less likely, right, at the newer school, right, where we have new facilities and accommodations. But what's the thought? What's the thought there?
Great question. And it's not a silly question at all. We do try to be proactive in that, right? Like, so if we know we have some aging furniture, we don't want to wait until a student sits in it and they end up on the floor, right? So that's why we do have, funding, and we do purchase each year replacements for what we know are aging pieces of furniture so that we can replace them before, they become a problem.
Okay.
Is it going to be the worst thing in the world to not fund that in 1 year? No, and that's why it's here on the list for consideration, right? So I don't want you to think that it's, I don't want you to think that it doesn't have any impact, because it does, right? Because we are thoughtfully trying to be proactive in replacing those things that are aging out. But certainly if something broke that needed to be fixed, we would find a way to get it. We'd freeze something else. We pull it from another account that we think we had some room to pull from. Yeah.
And I just want to reiterate something that you kind of just said in passing a little bit to the entire group, that, even though these are proposals for this year, these, don't necessarily show permanent changes, even if adopted, right? There's areas in which we are going to flex and change, right, over the coming school years. So this is purely for now an exercise just to look at, being able to hold the district steady during this next year of transition, bringing in some new leadership. So. And then the other quick question around field trips. Does the cut in transportation mean a cut in actually going on the field trips, or does it mean potentially additional parent pay for those? What's the thought there?
So that would, those types of decisions would definitely be made at the building level.
Okay.
And I think all the building principals are on here, and so certainly they can give some thought to that and come back on Thursday. I can speak a little bit more clearly to that. I think it might depend on what the planned field trip was, right? And if there could be fundraising done to support it in some way or another.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I can have more precise information for you on that on Thursday.
Okay. Just a thought.
All right. Should I move on to the next scenario?
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect. And the next two, there's not too many changes, so we might be able to just high level go through each two, and then come back in more detail on some of the questions you had. But scenario B was a 4% target. That did require a $1.1 million reduction. Scenario B does get us within $5,000 of that target, and it does keep those new investments of the ML teacher, the 2 para educators, and the firewall upgrade. What it does do to meet that higher reduction is it increases the reduction in FTEs by 2. And I have the net number here because we are also adding that ML teacher back in. So the net reduction, or the net reduction to teachers is 5. It would be 6 current positions that we have today. That increases the teacher FTE reduction to $614,000. The only other change is, so it's everything else that we saw in scenario A, right? In addition to these 2 additional FTEs, as well as the Chromebook, the one-to-one Chromebook program that we have in there for $55,000, and after-school programs, clubs, and almost all clubs. I think there was yearbook and the Wisconsin Morning News. We wanted, Mr. Renda really thought it was important to continue those.
Mhm.
But all other clubs and sports would be eliminated out of that in order to meet this $1.1 million reduction. So that's that one.
And just a clarification on the after school, are those are not after schools offered by Parks and Rec. Those are after schools funded and done through teacher staff.
Sure. Exactly. They're funded through the stipend positions in the teacher contract. And it also does reduce. So if there's no sports, then there's no extended duty pay for, like referees and, things like that. So it comes from a couple different budget areas, but it's all related to paying teachers and support staff to, run those programs. Yep. So that's the change there. And that gets us, like I said, just over the 4% target. The next scenario C, is the 3.5%. You see, we've changed to blue because this scenario does in fact get us to the 3.5%. It includes almost everything from scenario A and B, includes everything from scenario A. It does add back in the sports program, after school programs at Wisconsin, but it does eliminate 1.0 FTE in the administrator unit. And it does eliminate the new FTE for the ML teacher that was proposed. You see that's crossed out in this key budget. And so that gets us to the 3.5%.
Casey, I just have a question on that multilingual teacher. I mean, we may not have a choice but to cut that. The fact of the matter is we may have to provide it by the end of this year. So I don't even think that I don't know, as a board member, I don't even think that that's an area that we can look at cutting because we may have to fund it this year.
Can I say something about that? So, Erin, I appreciate that that statement. And so the ML teacher is designed to allow the middle school and high school to each have one multi-language learner teacher. That is different than the required dual language teacher, bilingual teacher that would happen if our numbers hit 20 of one specific language. And yes, they are close, in one building, but the state requires us to look at the October 1st enrollment for that. So we're not there for this year. If we hit it next year, the state then says you're required to address it the following year. So the state recognizes that you can't make a district anticipate and address a need within a budget cycle like that. So this is different than the bilingual teacher. Okay. I'm not sure if that helps or not.
No, it does help. But I think we also, whether, the state makes us do it, do we have a moral and ethical obligation to do it? I think that's really where I'm coming from if we have that population.
All right.
Okay.
Where would you like to go next, Caroline?
That's
all I had to present. So
yeah.
And I do want to reiterate Vonda's point earlier, in that we do have, while these are, sort of broader groups of expense areas, we do have to the dollar where all of these come from out of the budget workbooks. We thought it would be most appropriate and helpful for the board to really look at it in these larger categories. It also doesn't sort of pigeonhole anybody to say, oh, you weren't going to spend the $2,000 on this, it was going to be on that, right? To be able to have that flexibility to move within these accounts. But we know that if all of these areas are limited, that we could meet these targets that you set forth. So I just want to provide that reassurance to you.
Casey, can you send the finance committee these charts just so we have them for Thursday?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say, I personally need time to digest and think about the presented scenarios. Again, these are all understand really difficult conversations and really difficult scenarios. And, I and the board appreciate that. And again, appreciate the thoughtfulness, put into this. I do have a request for Thursday potentially. It's a little difficult for me to garner the actual impact of these changes. So I'm not sure if we could maybe, create a couple bullets or, a summary. Like, I understand cutting anywhere is impactful, right? It's an impact, but can we articulate, those areas that could be most affected? And again, I know, I don't know, is that a reasonable ask, or is that, you tell me.
I think, sorry, Vonda, did you want to say something?
Or Vonda, yeah.
No, I mean, I think that, I think the team can certainly work on that. Again, they would be, yes, we can certainly try. Absolutely.
And again, the ask isn't down to like the individual line item level, but just, it's hard for me to see, what programs we're potentially sacrificing or things more along those lines. I'm just not, maybe it's part of my unfamiliarity, right, year over year, in the budget discussions, but it's hard for, I know it's very impactful, high level, but helping me articulate that, right, when, I ultimately will, help get in front of the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance, to talk about these things. So.
And we certainly can compile some of that information. And just so you know, as a group, the admin team talked about the impact of different decisions, and I don't know how else to say this. Not everybody's going to agree with what the administrators have decided. However, that's the administrator's job, is to carefully analyze and think and make the best decision for their school and their students.
Understood.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Okay. If there's no other questions, like I said, I need, and I'm assuming other folks probably need a little bit of time to digest, think, to come back with thoughtful questions or comments. I think it's good, right? We have the follow-up on Thursday for that purpose. So are there any other questions from the folks on the phone about what's been shared this evening?
No, I do not have any other questions.
No, I mean, Carolyn, I just share the same sentiment that, we're talking about numerous full-time FTEs, and I just think we need to have some idea of where they are and what those impacts are going to be before we can even make an informed decision on where to go.
Yep, and you will have that, Erin.
Yeah.
You will you will definitely have that. And that's going to be the only focus of Thursday's meeting. It's just this budget. And so we can get sort of into the more details of ththose areas and what it means, right? Okay. So if we're not going to fund, $5,000 here, what does that look like?
Right. And sorry to cut you off. My other thought is too, areas in which we could look at other potential funding, right? You mentioned fundraising, right? When it comes to, field trips or, the after school activities. I may be misinterpreting what I'm hearing from the public, but I mean, there may be a willingness to support those endeavors, right? Not within the school budget, but maybe, slightly more out-of-pocket costs, right? For those that want to participate in those benefits, right? In the school system. So I don't know, just.
Yep. No, I hear you. I just want to reiterate, right? Like in each of these scenarios, in order to at least meet half of the requested reduction, it does require an FTE reduction. I just want to be super clear on that we can't pull, $5,000 here and $7,000 here and come up with these hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, but absolutely, we need to talk about what those FTE positions are so that you can really understand what it means big picture for the district. So, and we'll get into that on Thursday.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Last call for any other questions on the new business.
Nope, everyone's gonna get to the next meeting, so it's
Okay, well, we got just a couple here. So, any other miscellaneous discussion for this evening?
I will actually, sorry. One thing to comment on, which is the fact that we had the state of Connecticut in here at TSO all day today, doing a food service administrative review. There were 0 findings right? It was 0, Joan. Yeah, because we were very, very pleased. They were very pleased with how, you know, we are managing that program, how we are working with our food service management company. They were thrilled that we introduced breakfast into this district, which is something that they have been asking us to do since you started here, Joan, right?
Yep.
They were very, very complimentary of the work that was done. It was both a review of the food service program itself and how we're managing that, and also on our procurement and how we are, you know, purchasing things, you know, spending money and making sure that we're following the rules. We will have a little bit of a write-up on the wellness, which we did start this year, but we are not far enough along in that progress to get a gold star. But overall, it was a very, very favorable review. And I just want to thank Joan Reynolds so very much for all of her effort to ensure that that was a successful review. And also Amber Terrell, who is our very part-time food service admin assistant. She is funded from the cafeteria fund because that's all she does is focus on food service. And I just have to tell you, the work of these 2 women was phenomenal, and I'm entirely grateful because I know it would have been a completely different review had it all been on my shoulders. So thank you, Joan and Amber, and congratulations.
I second that.
And John Lucas, our town treasurer, he's still on the call. I do have to thank him as well because he was a real partner in sort of encouraging the launch of this breakfast program really since I got here, you know, two and a little bit of years ago. So thank you, John, for that too. So it was great.
No problem. And you guys really just run an amazingly efficient ship, and I appreciate everything you and Joan and the whole team do. So that's so good to hear about the state's findings. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Casey, do you mind sending me a blurb that I can put into the notes so I can appropriate reflect those comments?
Yes, I will. If you once you send the minutes, I'll add them right into the minutes, Caroline.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course.
Caroline,
Okay.
I sent you an email with everybody in attendance, just so you know, it went to your board email.
Thank you, Erin. I took a few notes too, as I could scratch down when I wasn't sharing my screen. So thank you for your help.
No problem.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I move to adjourn for the evening at 6:59.
Look at that. All right. Good night, everybody.
All right.
sounds good. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.